Guess who's back, back again. I'm just fucking with you. What's good, everybody? It's Sway Max Senior coming back at you for UFC 243. We got some really good fights going on. Of course, the main event is going to be Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whitaker. They're going to be scrapping for the belt. Yeah, I mean it's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a good one. This week I'll actually be not only just breaking down the fights like normal, I'll also be kind of walking you guys through how I use the DFS Army to set up my MMA lineups. So as you can see, I mean it's kind of really simple. We haven't really got started yet, but we'll get into it more so after we break down the fights. As you guys can see here, just have a little sheet, nothing special. You got in the green, it's going to be the favorites, and then of course you got the dogs in red. So yeah, we'll get right to it. First off, I do want to let you guys know we do have 11 fights, as you can see here. We do have 11 fights. We have, I believe, let me see. We have five of the fights. There's a couple of more, but there's five that I think are significant to end early. We have about three or four, maybe yeah, about three or four. There's maybe one more real heavy favorite that we have here, as you can see. We have some heavy favorites here. Kind of your typical card, right? As far as what we see with, you got someone's expected to end early. You got some heavy favorites. The ones that get difficult are, when you get these real tight cards that are all expected to go to decision. It's like, what the hell are we supposed to do with that? So yeah, so should be a good one. UFC 243. Let's get it cracking. So yeah, to start off, we have Bruno Silva versus Khalid Taha. This is going to be a bantamweight fight. You got Taha coming in. Excuse me. You got Taha coming in at minus 239. He's 8,900 on DraftKings. And as you can see here, we got coming back. Bruno is plus 193. He's 7,300 on DraftKings. So right away, the one thing I will tell you is that this has a minus 125 to inside the distance to end early. Not really significant, right? But it's a odd. And with it being the first fight of the night, you have one of the heavier favorites on the card as far as Taha being minus 240 earlier on, minus 239. 8,900. We get a little bit of a discount, as I talk about all the time and every week. These not, if you can get somebody to get you over 100, and they're going to be less than 9K, you kind of want to take a few shots. Now it always depends on how many lineups you're making, of course. I typically will make about 40 or so, 40 or 50 or so. So you can get some good exposure there. If you're one of these guys who have 150, I mean, you definitely want to have exposure to this fight, right? Not necessarily to this fight, but to Taha, right? But yeah, I mean, Taha, he's coming off of a KO in his last fight. He looked good. Dude's powerful. He's aggressive. I will say his takedown defense is just a little bit suspect. It's a little bit suspect. But we'll see. Like I said, it's got good inside the distance odds. I'll be honest, Silva, somewhat of an unknown. Somewhat of an unknown. Could he come out here and do something crazy? Fuck yeah. Can we predict that? Fuck no. So, I mean, that's the play here. Taha's the play here. Like I said, I'll have a little bit of exposure to him, specifically because he's under 9K. He's got the inside the distance prop, even though it's low. Not gonna load up, not gonna have heavy exposure to this guy, but definitely like him. And I will have some exposure. So yeah, man, trust the numbers. Don't fight it too much. Next up, we have Nadia Kasim going up against Ji Yeon Kim. This is going to be a flyweight bout for the women. We have Kim coming in at minus 176. She's 8,700 on DraftKings. And Kasim is coming back at 7,500 on DraftKings at plus 147. I'll be honest, don't really like this fight for DraftKings. You won't really get that much into it. I mean, Kasim, If you just look at like what she did in her last fight, I mean, I don't know, like she's just not gonna score very high. Don't like her too much. And then on the flip side, Kim, this is her first fight of the year. She hasn't fought since last year. I want to say in like November or something like that. I'd have to go back and look for sure. But I just don't like it. I really don't like it. Now, man, crazy shit always happens. And I say this every time one of these pay-per-view cards come up. Crazy shit happens. It just really does. If you're throwing a bunch of lineups out there, I ain't gonna be mad at you if you have some of these ladies on there. I'll probably if I can get minimal percentage on it, I'm not gonna ask them to throw it in there. But if the optimizer wants to give me 10 to 15% or something like that, I'll take it. I'll take it. I won't fight it. But really, just for me personally, I don't like it for DraftKings. Now, one thing you will find out about me if it's your first time listening to the podcast or just listening to me in general, I take stands. You got to take stands, and I'm not right all the time, but I'm right sometimes, and that's for everybody. You just got to take your stands, and sometimes you're going to be right, and sometimes you're going to be wrong. But if you take your stands, you'll have more darts at the end when you are right, instead of being right, and not kind of going the route you should have, right? Not being as confident and playing them as much as you should have, right? So yeah, you'll notice that about me. Some people um, I mean, and it's tough when you're playing a bunch of lineups. It is tough. We're playing fights, right? You're gonna target fights. You like fighters, you target fighters. But when it comes to GPPs and stuff like that, you really want to look for these fights, right? Because that's when you get somebody cheap, might get you a cheap KO, Binktown. So yeah, we'll keep it moving. Next up, we have Megan Anderson, or Megan, however the fuck. And then it's Sarah Ferrin dos Santos. Man, this is a super interesting fight. Megan Anderson, well, first off, let me tell you that she is the highest favorite. She's the biggest favorite we have this week. Right now, looks like she's minus 521 right now. 9,400 on DraftKings. So just based off of me quickly scanning, she appears to be the most expensive fighter we have this week. Minus 521 for Megan Anderson. Like for Megan Anderson, come on, like that's crazy. Just if you want to go back and look at her, if you want to go back and look at her fights, and I don't have anything pulled up that'll show us. I mean, I guess I can we can kind of go over here. I like to use SureDog when I'm just kind of quickly breaking down fights real quick. Lets me see the entire card, and this is just for quick stuff. Like if I just want to, see some just quick little stuff on them. So let's go to Megan Anderson. Right. Now, let's keep it real. She's fighting somebody at the end of the day that shouldn't be in the UFC. They are trying to hand her a win right here. They're trying to gift her a win. They really are. Um, but yeah, she just lost to Felicia Spencer. Felicia just, it is what it is. Can't really blame her too much for that. But her takedown defense is terrible. Like it's non-existent. She did beat Kat Zingano, but that was like to a fluky kick. You know what I mean? It was weird. She like put her fucking toenail in her eye. Um, like she just hasn't looked good. She just hasn't looked good, and I've watched every single one of her fights. Um, and I, the oh, see, and this is one thing. This is one thing, right? This is where the recency bias. I'm not gonna let it affect me too much because you also have to trust the numbers. Now, there's no way, there's no way my entire night is gonna load up on her. There's no way I'm gonna have a lot of her. I'll have some of her though. I will have some of her just because of the two things I'm gonna tell you right now. She's the biggest favorite on the card. Yes, she's 9,400, but she also comes with a. Let me see here. Where is it? I want to say minus 195 if my memory serves me right. Let me see. We can look at it right here. Minus 195 to end early. Fight doesn't go to decision. That's massive for a female fight. That is massive for a chick fight. Like that's just keeping it real. That is massive. Um, you still can't trust her that much though, but you have to have some of her because of those two things. And she's fighting somebody. She's fighting a bum. Like to keep it real, she's fighting a bum. So that's how I feel about that. I'm gonna take a stand on that and not load up on her. And you can't really call it a fade because, like I said, I'll have about 20%. I'm gonna make sure I get about 20%, 25%. So if say she does do something crazy, I'll have enough where I'm not like dang. But I definitely will not have so much that if she does what I think she's gonna do, which is pull a massive stunt, um, you know, she's gonna ruin my night. Now on the flip side, for Dos Santos, for some hedge, I say go ahead and get maybe 10 15% of her, especially if you're playing 150 lineups. Even if you're playing 50 lineups, go ahead and get a little bit of her just in case she does something crazy. Because at 6,800, even if she can maybe go out there and 70, 80, I mean, who knows? Something like that. You never know. Um, but yeah, big inside the distance odds. Um, I mean, I just think they are kind of throwing her a win here. So honestly we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. All right, next up we have Brad Riddle going up against Jamie Malarkey. This is going to be an interesting fight here. Brad Riddle's minus 176. He's 8,600 on DraftKings, and Jamie Malarkey is plus 147. He's 7,600 on DraftKings. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting fight. Malarkey, he's all right. He's got good ground game, though. He's got really good ground game, I guess I could say. He's going to look for a takedown or possibly look for a sub. He might be live for the sub. Um, Based off of what I've seen, he's got an all right pace. He's got good cardio. He's not gonna gas out in there. On the flip side, Riddle's definitely taking a step up in competition. He's powerful though. His talent is overall a little bit sus. I mean, we just kind of need to see more. To be honest, I need to see more. His takedown defense is a little bit sus. And that's just how I kind of feel about the fight. Like as far as DraftKings purposes, I think if you're gonna play anybody, you can go ahead and play Malarkey and think and hope he gets the sub. I'm telling you, he's live for the sub. He's live for something at 7,600. Just listen to me when I say that. He might get K'd out quick. It's possible. But I think he's live for the sub. This one doesn't carry any inside the distance odds, so we'll see. For the most part, let's kind of keep it moving on that one. All right. Next up, we have Callan Potter going up against Makai Pitolo. This is going to be a welterweight fight. We got Pitolo at minus 336. He's 9K. And then we have Potter coming back at plus 263. He is 7,200 on DraftKings. Yeah, this is a very, very good fight, right? Especially for DraftKings. I really like this for DraftKings. I'll personally be targeting a lot. Don't really know how much, but I'll be targeting it a lot. You got Patolo, I kind of say this every week, right? Like if you listen to Vegas, Vegas is telling you that Patolo's gonna win and Patolo should knock him out. You got a minus 365 inside the distance odds, and Patolo in the minus 300 range, right? I mean it's there. It's all there for the taking. So with that being said, at 9K, you can't have way too much of him, but he's definitely the play. It's just up to you as to how much you want to play him. Now on the flip side, Potter, um, Potter, he's been banged up. Like, I mean, as far as like he's been beaten up, like, in his fights, like his last couple fights, he's really been beaten up. I just don't think he's gonna come out here in style. I think this is gonna be a tough fight for him. However, he could get something fluky. I don't know what he would get fluky, but he could get something fluky. Um, at 7,200, if Potter does somehow get like a fluke win, and somehow gets in that 90 100 range, you want to have some. And at this point in the card, you kind of want to start to take some shots at some of these dogs, right? If you didn't already earlier in the card. So if you want to go ahead and have some Potter as a hedge, definitely take it. But Patello's the play, and we'll keep it moving. Next up, we have Jake Matthews going up against Rostim Akhman. This is going to be a good fight. Don't know if I like it too much for DraftKings, but you know, you got Jake Matthews coming in at minus 373. You have Ackman coming back at 7,100. Jake Matthews is 9,100 on DraftKings. Um, yeah, I mean, Ackman plus 288 as far as odds are concerned. Yeah, this is a good fight. Don't really like it for DraftKings, just to be completely honest. I could see Jake Matthews coming out here and getting a win and maybe getting an early win. So I won't blame you if you want to have some shots on him. I think he might carry some low ownership. I could be wrong. I really don't know. Um, it's just my personal belief. But I'll have some shares of them. I'll have some shares of them, but it won't be anything crazy. This one doesn't carry any inside the distance odds, but he is one of the heavier favorites on the card. And as far as a breakdown, there's really no need to break it down for DraftKings much more than that. All right, as we keep it moving, we have Justin Tafa going up against Jorgen De Castro. Actually, just saw Justin Tafa and Tai Tuivasa are friends. I just saw Tuivasa on Embedded or something like that. Went up there to go get one of his like T-shirts or something like that. So that's cool. That was cool. I didn't know that before. But yeah, you got Justin Tafa coming in at a minus 126. You got Jorgen De Castro coming back at plus 102. Yeah, chitty chitty bang bang. We got two heavyweights here. We got some big boys. Justin Tafa is 8,300. Jorgen De Castro is 7,900. I like to call it that honey spot. They're right in that honey spot. So you got two big boys. You got close odds. You got good pricing on both of them, and you got an inside the distance prop of minus 390. I mean, like I say, trust the numbers. That tells you everything you need to know, kind of right there. However you want to play it, however you choose, you just gotta hope one of these dudes drop. To be completely honest, and they drop early. Now, I will say this because if these heavyweights don't drop each other in the first round, normally you get a very sloppy fight. You get a very sloppy fight after that. Um, Based off of what I could find on DeCastro, you know, he's coming off of the Contender Series win by TKO, of course. Um, but there's not, you know, both of these guys are kind of green. You know what I mean? Like there's not much there. For Tafa, you know, there's not much tape I could find on him. I saw he was fighting out of like at the Extreme Fighting Championships out of Australia or some shit like that. But every single one of his fights, he's won by KO, TKO, every single one of them. So that's, I mean, basically somebody should drop here. Um, at 7,900, though, I will say Jorgen De Castro, if he does go out there and get that first round win at 7,900, you can bet your bottom dollar he'll be in the Bink lineup. I can just tell you that right now. So I'll have some shares of both of these guys. However much you choose to play of them, that's on your that's you know your own. However you kind of play your own personal lineups. But you know, when I show you the optimizer a little later, I'll give you just a general rundown of how you could put it in there. But by all means, you know, please work it a little bit. You know, if you're using that optimizer, don't necessarily put in what I'm putting in there. Put your own flavor in there because that's not what I'm going to play. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm just going to basically put some rough stuff in there to show you how I use it to give it to you know give it what I want. But yeah, this is a fight we're going to target and we'll keep it moving. Next up, we have Diego Lima going up against Luke Jamu. Um, this is a good fight here, not necessarily for DraftKings, but this is going to be a good fight here. Um, you got Jamu coming in at plus 122. He's 7,800 on DraftKings. And you have Diego Lima coming in at minus 146. He's 8,400 on DraftKings. The one thing, because this is going to be a quick breakdown, the one thing I will say about Diego is he has looked okay. You know, I like to use form, even though it's a soccer term. His form has been all right. You know, he's been in all right form recently. He's looked better. You know, he did have that KO win off of Laprice. I mean, you know, he's looked all right. And I honestly, I think he's gonna come out here and style on Jamu. I don't think this is going to score well for DraftKings. However, if you want to have some exposure to it, I wouldn't blame you. But I just personally don't think this one's gonna score very well, so I'll keep it moving. All right. Next up, we have Tai Tuivasa. We just kind of talked about him going up against Sergey Spivak. Yeah, we have a good fight here. Just to give you guys kind of something else to look at. If we want to go and look at the odds here, you got kind of big odds on Tai here. Now, this is definitely one that carries heavy, heavy inside the distance odds. It's actually gone up since I looked at it earlier. It was minus 410. Right now it's at minus 470 to end early. So what do I like to say? What is Vegas saying? Vegas is saying Tai Tuivasa is gonna knock this cat the fuck out, and he's gonna do it early, and so we got to put him in our lineups, right? I mean that's what it is, and so that's what we're gonna do. Tai Tuivasa is the play. However, if we want to go back and let's just look at some things here. At 9,300, he has to go out there and do the job, and he has to do it early, and he has to score high because at this point in the card, there's going to be some high scores somewhere. And a lot of the times it's going to come from guys, or gals underneath 9K. That's just what happens. Shit gets crazy. On the flip side, though, Spivak, man, you know, he, he's taking a big step up again. I just he's all right. He needs some work. We'll see. It's tough. I think they're putting him in a bad spot, honestly, for Ty to come out here and showcase on him and style on him. So it'll be fun to see exactly what happens. These are some big boys, some heavyweights. Anything can happen, and you got Spivak sitting here at 6,900. You have to take some shots at him, honestly, because if he does go out there and catch Ty on the 10 or drop him, I don't see it happening, but it's possible. You might want to have some shares just in case that happens. You can't play everybody, so you got to pick your spots, but you can take small percentages on some of these people just in case. So maybe it jumps into that right lineup, right? You never know. So yeah, we're moving right along here. We have Dan Hooker going up against Al Iaquinta. This is going to be the co-main event here for UFC 243. You got a lightweight fight. Two bangers here, man. Dan Hooker is my boy. People sleep on Dan Hooker. People have been sleeping on Dan Hooker. And like they sleep on Dan Hooker like, oh, like, maybe not so much now, but a few fights ago, if Dan Hooker knockout loss was on your resume, like you lost to Dan Hooker by knockout, they thought you were a bum. They were like, man, you let Dan Hooker knock you out. Now he's going out here like that's what he does. He knocks cats the fuck out. Now, let's look at Al Iaquinta, right? I looked back and I'll show you guys here. Dude, he's never been finished by punches. He's never been finished by punches. Um, he's been finished by submission. He's been finished, basic like that's basically it. He's been finished by submission several times, but he's never been finished by knockout TKO. Decision loss, technical submission loss, submission loss. We can even go way back. Like it's never happened. It's never happened. So I think it's gonna be tough for Dan to put him away. Is basically what I'm saying. I think it's gonna be tough for Dan to put him away, and that's his game. But I think you got to have some ownership to both of these guys. This one doesn't carry any inside the distance odds, but it is the co-main event. Anything can happen. I mean, Dan could go out here and put Al to sleep just because it's never happened. Don't mean it ain't gonna happen. So Dan is the play personally for me. I do think he goes out there and wins this. How many points can he score in 3 rounds in a decision at 8,500? Maybe not enough, but if he does end it early, he'll definitely score enough at 8,500. And possibly be in that Bink lineup as well. Like any of these guys that are cheap and are gonna possibly win early, you gotta take some shots at them because if they do win early, right, and they do score that 190, 100 points, over 100 points, I'm telling you, they're gonna be in that winning lineup. So at least if you can have some shares of them, it's good to have. All right, next up in And lastly, we have Robert Whitaker, the champ. You have Israel Adesanya, the interim champ. They are going to fight it out to see who's the real champ here, right? Um, man, this is going to be a good one here. Ugh. It's tough though. You know, Israel's been going through a lot of decisions. Robert doesn't really go through a lot of decisions. Um, this is the one thing here though. Every week we talk about that price range that Vegas or that DraftKings doesn't really know where to put these guys, right? Like they don't know what is going on, who's going to win, or what's going on. Let's look at the odds here. You have both guys at minus odds. It's a pick 'em. It's basically a dead pick 'em. And then you have the salary here. You got Israel at 8K. You have Robert Whitaker at 8,200. I mean, like if these guys go out here for 5 rounds and just beat the hell out of each other, and we get a lot of significant strikes, and like if you're playing cash, I'm pretty sure you wanna go ahead and pop this one in there for cash. You could probably get away with playing both of these guys in cash. I mean, but as far as tournaments are concerned, you know, this this is one. It's tough because I usually am like like this was a banger. Somebody's dropping. This ain't going. Or let's go all in. This one might go 5 rounds. If it goes 5 rounds, it's interesting to see the scores that we get. I definitely will have heavy ownership to the fight though because it is the main event. The main event more times than not because we have seen some crazy shit lately. Some crazy shit lately. More times than not, though, that fight sways the end of tournaments. It sways scores completely, and normally you have to have that fight in your lineup to bink. That's just keeping it real. Not always for sure, but most of the time, right? Most of the time. So yeah, that's what I got for you guys. Hopefully it wasn't too long. Hopefully you guys liked it. Now we'll move on to the next portion. Yeah, so like I said, we got the DFS Army here, DFS Army tools. Really simple to use, but also there's a lot of stuff going on in here. That you have to be able to kind of manipulate it a little bit so they can give you what you want. It's kind of like when I was talking about in the other optimizer last week, and I apologize, I got that one posted so late. But it's like in the one last week, it's they're all kind of the same as far as certain things you can do to it to get what you need. So you'll see what we're talking about here. So we go ahead and go to MMA, make sure we're clicked on MMA. Then we're gonna go to UFC 243, make sure we're on there. Now, we can go ahead and put it at 2. You guys can put it at whatever you want. 1, 2, 3. It's kind of whatever. Leave it at optimal. Let's say we're going to go ahead and just run 50 lineups, right? I wouldn't really mess with the randomization. Now, this is where we got to get creative, right? We know there's a few fights that we like, so I'm not gonna totally break everything down, but I am gonna show you how we can make sure we get what we want. So we know the Pitolo fight is minus 365 inside the distance. We know we want one if not both of these guys. They already have him kind of up there pretty high, but let's just make sure we get him in all of our lineups. So let's go in. Let's say 101.5. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to max him, though. I'm going to put my max exposure to 60 because I only want him in 60% of my lineups. So I'm going to force it. So it's going to try to put him in everything, but I only want him in 60. All right. Next up, let's say Bruno. I kind of want to manipulate Bruno as well. So let's put Bruno at like 90.50, right? Let's put Bruno at 20 just to make sure we get Bruno at 20. Right? We'll do this. We'll do this a couple more times. So let's say we know we want the main event. Right? We know we want the main event. And let's say all of our lineups. So what I'll do here, we'll go up to Robert Whitaker. We'll put in 110.01, just something crazy. 105.12, right? Just some crazy numbers. I'm gonna put 50, 50. right? And then I'm gonna run it. Let's see what happens. Already see it's kind of, as far as percentages go, you can already see kind of what it's doing here, right? Likes Jamie Malarkey. I don't blame it. We were kind of just talking about Malarkey, that he is live. I'm telling you, he's live. I don't like him 50% live, but he is live. So let's see what we got here. So we didn't mess with Tai Tuivasa, I don't believe. So that's probably why it's giving us a bunch of him. Yeah, we didn't mess with him. Let's just make sure. So we got Robert Whitaker at 50%, which is what we wanted. We got Israel Adesanya at 50%, which is what we wanted. Then we went ahead and made sure that we had at least 20% of Bruno Silva. So you see how you kind of do that there. Then we made sure we had at least 60% of Makai Pitolo, and at max 60% Makai Pitolo. That's kind of how you do it. Won't kind of go through everything, because again, I want you guys to be able to kind of personalize it and kind of put your own plays in there. But I did want to show you how I use it and how easy it is, to be able to, like if you want to take a stand on any of these guys, right? Like, say you're like, fuck, man, you know what? I Jumo's gonna go out there and beat the hell out of Lima. I just know it, right? Well, shit, put him up at 110. There we go. Put him at 100.1, and get you 60%, right? Man, get you 70%, right? We'll go back. We'll optimize it. It's gonna give us 70% Jumo. Like, that's just kind of how you do it. So if you guys have also, before I forget, drum roll. Thank you for everybody who participated. Everybody who did, I really appreciate it. I know it kind of was a spur of the moment kind of thing. So for those who did, much love. The winner is going to be at DFS Flamingo. So at DFS Flamingo, again, thank you for participating. You have won yourself a free week to the DFS Army. Make sure you go ahead and DM me, and I'll get in touch with their CEO there, and we'll make it happen, Capping. All right. But yeah, other than that, like I said, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Yeah, let's make some money. Let's keep it moving. Peace.